Hello YouTube, this is John from Vulgar Kitten Studios, and welcome to episode 8 of our How to Make a Video Game series. And in today's lesson we're going to actually wrap things up, and we're going to implement our winning and losing system and just polish things up a little bit. And it's a sad day, but it's got to end sometime, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and implement our systems to make us be able to win and lose. Okay, so first thing that we need to do is just add a little bit of polish. And what I want to do is add like a fade screen, so whenever we load this level, we can fade in, and when we lose or win, it'll fade out. And so the way that we'll do that is we'll actually create a new GUI texture. And with the GUI texture, we'll go into our GUI, grab the screen dimmer texture, and put it on there. And we actually want to reset everything, so we'll take the transform and just make sure that's all set to 0 except for the Z. We can leave that alone. And we'll also reset our pixel inset because we'll create a new rect with that. And I'll just rename this and I'll call this screen dimmer. And we'll need to make a script to govern it, so we'll go into our scripts folder and create a new C# script. Call that screen dimmer and open that up. And we'll need to get a public reference to our GUI texture, or really it doesn't even need to be public. I don't even know why I'm doing it that way. Let's just get a public float and call that fade speed, and we'll default that to 1.5. And for our GUI texture, we'll make that a local private variable, and we'll say GUI texture and call that text. And we'll also need a boolean, and we'll call that start and set that to true by default. And we'll need a color, which we will call color, which will store our texture's color at the very start of the script. So let's go ahead and go into not start but awake, and we'll say text or text dot pixel inset is equal to a new rect, and the rect that we'll draw is the same as we did with our menu, our main menu texture. So just the full width and height of the screen, and void start, we will use our color variable. So color is equal to text dot. You know what? I don't even know why I'm doing that. We'll just use awake for this. So color is equal to text dot color. And in update, we will say if our start variable is true, then we'll call a method called begin. And we haven't made this yet, but we are going to. So let's just come down here, and first of all we'll make a method called fade to clear, and we'll make another one called fade to default, and then we'll need a begin and an end. So that's our method skeleton. And for our fade to clear, let's just go ahead and set that up first. Fade to clear, we'll take our text dot color and make that equal to color dot lerp, and we'll lerp our text dot color to our color to color.clear, which is full alpha, and we'll make that happen over our fade speed times time dot delta time. The exact same line for fade to default, but with a few changes. And we'll lurk between our text.color to our color this time. And for void begin, whenever we first start, we'll call our fade to clear method. And then if text.color.a is less than or equal to 0.1 maybe, or 0.05, we'll just say, then we'll use text.color will be equal to color.clear, because this happens in percentages, and no matter how long you let this run, it'll probably never actually reach the full value clear, which actually will make that to like that. We'll just go ahead and snap it once it reaches this value here. So color.clear, and then we'll set the text.enabled to be equal to false, and also start will be equal to false. Okay. And now for end. End is going to be when we end our game. So first we'll need to enable our texture, so text.enabled is equal to true. And then we'll need to fade to default. And then we'll say if our text.color.a is greater than or equal to 0.45, then we'll do some stuff in here. And on that note, we'll just go ahead and leave this off for now. Actually, we can go ahead and make sure that we turn our screen cursor on. So we'll say screen.showCursor is true. And go back into Unity. Let this compile. And first, let's just go ahead and test this out. So our screen dimmer, and let's see, are we actually setting our text? So text, no. So we'll need to actually say text is equal to this. See if that works. No, we're just trying to get the static component of the script. So yeah, we'll go ahead and make that a public variable so we can assign it. And we'll just make that public, and F2 to refactor and change that there. And go back into Unity. And take the screen dimmer, and we'll just assign it to itself like that. And so let's go ahead and save our scene, and let's go into scenes, go into main menu, and let's play the game. Okay, we got a nice fade in effect now. So let's go back into level 1 and grab our screen dimmer, and now we want to work on winning. So in order to do that, we're going to need a new game object. I'm going to create a new empty, and I'm going to call this game manager, and we'll need a script to supplement that as well. So we'll go create a new C# script, call that game manager. Open that up and just make sure we attach it. So attach it here. And we'll also be making an audio manager, so I'll go ahead and I'll get that out of the way now because it's a pretty straightforward script. So we'll make an audio manager script, and it serves a very simple function, but we'll just go ahead and we'll put that on an empty. We'll just call that audio manager with a capital M. Audio manager, and throw that on there. And we'll also want to add a component audio source, and I'm going to drag that onto our main camera and reset its position and drag it back off. Okay, so there we go. Now let's go ahead and open it up. And we'll make a public audio clip and call that when match tune, and a public lose match tune. And we'll also need a current audio clip, so current audio clip, which that can be private, but it really doesn't matter. We won't need our update for this one because we'll be using an enumerator, and we'll call it play. And we'll say audio.play, play one shot. And the clip that we're going to play is the current audio clip, and then we'll yield return new wait for seconds, and we'll wait for the current audio clip dot length, and then we'll say enabled is equal to false. And in start, we'll just start the coroutine. There we go. So let's go ahead and work on our game manager now, and this is the nuts and bolts of our win-lose system. It's just kind of the decider, if you will. And we'll need to add in a using statement up here. We'll use system.collections.generic, so we can make use of the generic lists, and we'll make a public list, and the list is going to be transform enemies is equal to new list transform, and we'll need a public bool. First we'll put in a find enemies, and then we'll need a win match and a lose match, a display grats, so for when we win, and a display fail for when we lose. We'll also need public GUI skin, and some constants for a window ID, so grats window ID is equal to 0, and fail window ID is equal to 1, and transform for our player, and rex for our windows, grats window rect, and fail window rect. And come down into start. We'll first set the player is equal to GameObject.find with tag the player, and then we'll need an array of game objects. Call that go. Make that equal to game object dot find game objects with tag the plural, and the tag that we want to find is enemy. And then we'll say for int I is equal to 0, so we're going to set up a for loop, and I is less than go dot length, then I plus plus, and then we'll add our enemies. So go I dot transform, and then we'll also want to set our grats windows recs, which are going to be the exact same as our main menu, which is screen dot width. Actually, let's just go ahead and grab our main menu rect. Main menu blah 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 blah, and throw that in here. So just like that, and then we'll set our fail window to be the exact same. And let's go ahead and go into our update, and we'll say if when match, then we'll call a function called when match, and if lose match, you guessed it, we'll call a function called lose match. And we need to capitalize that. Don't like using lower cases in my function calls. And if our find enemies variable is equal to true, which it should be by default, find enemies, and we'll leave that for now. If find enemies is equal to true, then we'll do our loop again. So the same thing that we were doing up here, and this is just so that you can add more enemies on the fly if you need to. So you can actually say, well, first of all, if find enemies is equal to true, then you would want to say like enemies clear the list, then add them to the list, and then set find enemies back to false. So just in case you're spawning multiple enemies in, and you still need to keep the list like this. Still need to keep the list. And then we'll say if enemies dot count is equal to 0, then we'll say when match is equal to true. And you'll probably want to put another bool in here to make sure that if you're using find enemies, then find enemies is never going to allow the this to happen. But I'm not going to include that functionality in our scripts. I'm just going to get this done because we only have the one level with the two enemies. And so we'll go into on or void, which will need to be out of update. We'll go into void on GUI. And first thing that we need to do is set our GUI.skin to be equal to skin, and then we'll say if display grats then we'll go ahead and draw the grats window. So we'll say grats window rect is equal to GUI.window, and then the window ID, which is going to be grats window ID, and then grats window rect, and then our grats window, which will be the function that will hold that in, and the label, which will say you won. Yay, you won. And obviously the same thing if you fail, so go ahead and get rid of that. Grab this, put it right here, and display fail. And fail window rect. So we probably could have used the exact same rect, but whatever, we're already in. And for that matter, we could even use the same ID. But like I said, we already have the stuff in here, so let's just go ahead and use it. And fail window rect. And we'll use the fail window. Fail window. And we'll say you lose. You're a loser. And now we'll go ahead and create our win match method. So void win match. And say screen dimmer SD is equal to GameObject.find, and we want to find the screen dimmer. And off of that, we want to get the component, so get component screen dimmer, and we'll say SD end, which those methods need to actually be public. So we'll go back into screen dimmer and make this public, and that one can probably stay private. So SD end, and then we'll say audio manager AM is equal to GameObject.find, and we're looking for the audio manager get component audio manager, and am dot enabled is equal to true, and am dot current audio clip is equal to am dot win match tune. And if our player does not equal null, then we'll grab a reference to our movement or our player motor. So player motor PM is equal to player get component player motor, and let's say fire projectile FP is equal to player dot transform dot find child, the turret get component fire projectile, and then look at mouse lamb is equal to player dot transform dot find child, the turret dot get component fire projectile, not fire projectile, but look at mouse, and then we'll say PM dot enabled is equal to false, and FP dot enabled is equal to false, and lamb dot enabled is equal to false. getting repetitive. I'm not annoyed, I promise. And then finally, we'll set the win match equal to false. And now we'll set up our lose match parameters. So lose match, or void lose match. Screen dimmer st is equal to GameObject.find screen dimmer dot get component screen dimmer st.end audio manager am GameObject.find our audio manager get component audio manager and am.enabled is equal to true and am.current clip is equal to am.lose match tune. And that's all we really need for that. And also, you could probably set up a public void for adding your enemies. This is just, like I said, if you want to make an enemy spawner, then you want to, this is to support that. If you want to set up logic for it, transform t, and then enemies dot add t. And we definitely will need a remove method, so we'll say public void remove enemy and transform t enemies dot remove t. And now for our grats window, we'll say void grats window int id, and we'll say if GUI.button 25 70 250 play again. Application.load level load level application.loaded level. And just grab this, copy it down here, and change the height to 130, and change the level to main menu, and say go to main menu, like that. Same thing for our fail window. And that's pretty much it. So let's go into our stats, and now we'll need to actually make sure that we're able to remove our enemies and remove ourselves from the game to win and lose the game. So we'll say game manager gm is equal to GameObject.find, and we want to find the game manager get component and game manager, and then we'll say if transform dot tag is equal to player. Then we'll say GM dot lose match is equal to true, and if our transform dot tag is equal to enemy, we'll say GM dot remove enemy, and then our transform. And so we'll go back into our screen dimmer now, and at the end we'll also want to disable our custom cursor. So once we come in here, we'll set our screen.show cursor to true, but we need to disable our custom cursor as well. So we need to go reference to the custom cursor, and we'll say camera.main.get component custom cursor cc.enabled is equal to false. And we'll also need to get reference to the game manager, so game manager GM is equal to gameObject.find our game manager, and we'll want to get component game manager, and now we'll want to perform checks for the lose and win match. So if gm.winMatch, then gm.display grats is equal to true, if gm.loseMatch, then gm.display fail is equal to true. And you might ask why we're doing it in our screen dimmer script, and the reason for that is because we don't actually want to display the window right away. We want to wait until we fade it a little bit before we display the window, and that should be enough. Let's go back into Unity and test it now. So we got some errors. Let's go ahead and fix those. We got an unexpected symbol somewhere, and we got an unexpected symbol here. It's good, it's good, it's good. And that's because I didn't encase this in a rect. So I actually need to say new rect. And whoa. Something like that. We'll probably need to do the same thing for over here. So new rect, and come over here and do this, and copy these down. Actually, just copy the whole thing. Make sure we get it in both methods. Save. Can't convert game object, so we need to get the transform. And saying that it can't be converted, so let's see what we got going on here. Cannot implicitly convert type screen dimmer into Unity object screen. So I said screen somewhere. So we need to actually say screen dimmer, defining the type. Okay. And first of all, let's just go ahead and see if we can win a match. So I'll turn off this enemy, and I'll grab this enemy and remove his pathfinding and his shooting, which is already done for me apparently. And we have an unassigned reference exception for the audio. So, aha. Now we actually need to, first of all, make sure that our audio listener, our audio manager, audio source, not audio source, but audio manager is off. And we do actually need to hook these up as well. So put our lose match in our lose match, and our win match in our win match, and we'll leave the current audio clip blank. And we win, but we're getting the ugly skin, so we'll go into game manager and find our skin and throw that into our skin variable. And now we'll go ahead and turn our enemies back on. So we'll turn on our AI path, turn on our turret, and apply. Go ahead and play. I'll let them kill us. Well, let him kill me. Okay, and we win, or we lose. Yeah, so, and we can play again. And just go ahead and make sure that our play again button works on the win, and everything is working properly. So now let's just, yeah, so that pretty much does it. So just for, I guess, completeness, I'll hit Control B to build and run. And I'll go ahead and click build and run. And whatever you name the folder in here is what it's going to be named. So I'll name it, I'll just name it prototype. Prototype. And select the folder. And realize that I've only got one tank, so I will get out of that. And first of all, I will go ahead and get off that window, enable my other enemy, make sure everything is set right, and then just hit Control B again. And I had to click on it to get it to play the music, but you can't catch me, man. Oh, I blew myself up. Well, I lost at my own game. Ha! Well, thank you for watching, and really it has been a pleasure. And let us know if you want to request anything that you don't know how to do, or you would like to see us do some other way, or whatever it is. But it's been a lot of fun creating this tutorial series, and you guys have a wonderful life.